Not gonna go tell a friend or a family member to grieve their divorce or whatever grief they're going through in the same way that I grieved it, and I'm not going to tell them to heal the way that I healed or am healing, because we're two different people. We do things different. I know what's in my heart. I know what my value system is. I know the things that I need to process my grief and to move forward into healing.
Hi, besties. It's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. Christine Woolley is getting a lot of attention right now because she has a book coming out in September. It's going to be released in 1 month. And ahead of the book release, there's been a lot of conversation with Meri. And Meri appears to be, I don't know if she's bothered by it. I don't know if she's supportive of it, but Meri and Christine have a very complicated relationship. And because Meri was the first wife in the family and held more control and parented much differently than Christine, and Christine said that Meri often would make fun of her or mock her or not be very nice to her. And if you're Mary's position, she's the first wife and her husband's having all of these mistresses and babies, and she has to take responsibility for them in a way. And, I can't imagine that would make any woman feel great about the woman that she's sharing her husband with. But in a world where they were saying they were going to do this to coexist, and it was because they had a faith in doing this and they wanted to be there, even though I don't think they did. But they have a complicated relationship. And Christine wants nothing to do with Meri because of the way that Meri treated her children. And Christine briefly touched on this in Becoming Sister Wives, where she spoke about how Meri had gotten really aggressive with a couple of her kids, and she had made some comments or done something that she felt crossed a line, and she didn't want Meri to ever interact with her children in that way again. And she also felt like she couldn't trust Meri anymore. She wanted Meri to stop parenting her kids and stay out of there, period. And she said that it took a long time to even think about rebuilding a relationship with Meri, and she never really did. And some of the kids have alluded to the fact that things happened with Meri. And Meri, for her part, has largely ignored these aspects of the conversation. And obviously, we know what happens in polygamy, right? A woman leaves, and then suddenly everyone is driving the bus over the woman that leaves. And so you are suddenly the villain in every situation. However, in polygamy, like most cults, individuals that are victimized often become victimizers of other people. In a hierarchy such as polygamy, the women might victimize other sister wives. They may victimize other sister wives' children or their own children. It's a trickle-down effect. And Meri appeared to be very hard on the children. And Peyton's commented on this. Maddie has called Meri an abuser. McKelty refuses to talk to her and also calls Meri an abuser. Peyton has said that Meri's abuse went way past verbal, and that if some details of what occurred the show wouldn't even be on the air. Now, Peyton definitely was a kid that was pretty aggressive, as a child. And so he might have taken some brunt from Meri in that regard. But the issue here is that Mary's never addressed it. Never. But instead of addressing that elephant in the room, she has gone along and done this thing called Worthy Up, where recently Meri has been saying, I'm not going to tell anyone how to live their life, and I'm not going to tell anyone how to grieve. But she has an entire community called Worthy Up, where she basically tells people how to be worthy. And she's following some sort of blueprint that Mel Robbins made. And she's in this Mel Robbins sort of, vortex. And she wants to be the self-help guru. And so when she said she didn't want to tell anyone that she didn't want to grieve, I thought that was a little bit hypocritical because she does that on Worthy Up. But on a series of videos that she posted, she did acknowledge what she did to the kids. Check this out.
who I am and why I am and how I am. What do I want to change in my life to become better on a daily basis is understanding why I have some of the personality traits that I have. When I look back at my past and my childhood and even as an adult after I got married and was going through different life experiences. For instance, I was a very strict parent. Understanding why makes it so that I don't shame myself. Not saying that anything is okay, not saying that bad behaviors are okay, but understanding why makes a difference for me. And that all came through therapy. When I started going through therapy and really understanding me as a person, that really made a difference.
I think one of the hardest parts for me as a person that has been investigating this cult and covering this family and digging in and reporting on the harms of this system, one of the hardest aspects in covering this case is not getting personally offended when certain people say things where you're like, but what about the harm you caused, right? And something that I have found in my investigations of these cultures is that there's such an indoctrinated belief that their public persona is so important, like their reputation is important, and they're always supposed to be making polygamy look good. And they are groomed from a very young age to sort of sanitize what happens and either gaslight, deflect, or minimize. And Meri has really wanted to curate this version of herself that she is a kind, loving person that is a, you know, humble and will go out of her way for people and will always exercise kindness and be value and in her relationships, which may be true in some of her relationships, but is not true in other relationships. And everyone has the capacity to grow and change, absolutely. But if Meri has a good therapist, she should also hold Meri accountable. And so Meri can go back into her childhood and she can say, well, yeah, I grew up abused by my parents, or my dad was physically abusive, or my mom was physically abusive, whatever it was. We know her dad was. And she can go into her relationship with Cody and she can say, well, I was being emotionally and psychologically and sexually or whatever the harm was that Cody caused her by Cody. But none of that would ever justify her deciding to then become an abuser herself. She says that it helps her understand why she's done things and allows her not to shame herself, which kind of makes it feel to me like that's a coping mechanism because she doesn't want to deal with the fact of what she's done. And it might be hard to accept that she's what she's done. You know, they have some parents that have done that are abusive. I know in my personal experience, it's to pretend it never happened, to gaslight you and make you feel like you're imagining things, or to minimize and say, well, I was abused more than you as a child, whatever it is that they need to tell themselves to justify why they made the choice that they made. But in 2025, I just want to be clear, choosing to abuse someone is a choice, even if you've been a victim of abuse yourself. And choosing to harm children is a choice. And choosing to lash out, get physical, whatever it was, is a choice. And what you experienced as a child does not in any way justify what you do to that child. That's completely unrelated to your childhood. That doesn't need to have your trauma imparted onto them. I think that, and I don't know, but I do think that Meri could be having some nerves about what's going to be in Christine's book because she's spent a lot of time recently, making comments like she doesn't want to tell people how to live their lives. She doesn't want to tell people how to grieve. She doesn't want to tell people that it's all positive. Here's an example.
I'm not going to go tell a friend or a family member to grieve their divorce or whatever grief they're going through in the same way that I grieved it. And I'm not going to tell them to heal the way that I healed or am healing, because we're two different people. We do things different. I know what's in my heart. I know what my value system is. I know the things that I need to process my grief and to move forward into healing, just like everybody else does. It's so individual and it's so unique to each of us, the process is not the same for everybody. So it's not fair for me to put that on others the way that I think it should be done, just like it's not fair for somebody else to put their grief journey or their healing process on me because it worked for them.
Now, here's just my take, and I'm no one and I don't matter. And I'm just an online commentator and investigative journalist that doesn't matter at all. But if I were to have an opinion, I would just say that, like, neither Christine nor Meri have it all figured out. Neither one of them have the answers, nor can any one of them tell you how to live your life. Both of them use their platforms in similar ways. Christine to encourage and to inspire, and Meri to get you to worthy up. And they both compete with one another still. And Meri has, for more than a year, told people how to grieve. She's told people how to be worthy. She's told people how to heal and get better and think better and be better. She wants to be someone that is a motivational speaker. She wants to be a coach. And so, if she doesn't want to tell other people how to grieve, then she shouldn't have Worthy Up. If she doesn't want to tell people how to go through their journey, then she shouldn't have Worthy Up. And if I'm being very honest, there's ways to share information without monetizing it, right? I think they need to make money. They have this like inherent need, like, I need to stay profitable. I want to use my platform. I have all of these bills I need to pay. I need to do these things. I need to show the world that I've changed, that I've grown, that I want to be more than what I am on the show. I get it. But I think, some habits die hard because they grew up in a system where they had to have the answers. And now they're leaving a high control group that told them how to live, told them what to watch, listen to, where, who to marry, how to act, what to think, what to process. I mean, everything was controlled. And it's very easy to hop from one system to another, which I think Meri is hopping into a self-help type culture. And both of them, whether it's Christine or Meri, want to have answers to help. And sometimes maybe it's like, I don't have the answers, right? I don't have any answers. I personally can't fathom doing self-help because I feel like my life is such a colossal mess that if I tried to give anyone advice, I'd be like, are you kidding me? You should go just do your thing, live your life, be happy, find what's happy, be like, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not someone that's here. I'm not a coach. I don't have the answers. Just go do your thing, be happy, go to therapy. I think my biggest thing I often recommend is just to go to therapy if you feel like you need help. That's the best place, and that's the best that worked for me. So with Meri making comments like she's not going to tell people things, okay, I think that's a dig at Christine, but I also think she's nervous about what Christine is going to put in that book because they don't have a cloak of charity anymore, right? There's no cloak of charity. And in the last few years, some of her kids, Christine, have made very public statements about how they don't want to associate with her. And Christine is very publicly on the show said that Mykelti will not invite Meri to anything related to her children, and she will not invite Meri to anything related to her. She does not want to have a relationship with Meri. That's been said on the show. So there's been a lot of skating around what happened between Mykelti and Meri. And I don't know if that's going to become a topic of conversation in Christine's book, if she's going to be honest about what happened, or that if that's Mykelti's story to tell. I don't know. But all I would think is I believe in transparency and I believe in truth and I believe in being honest and not sugarcoating things. And so if I were in their situation, I would not, I'd be looking to like be honest without being ashamed and being honest without fearing it'll cancel the show, and honestly saying this is what happened, this is what I did, instead of dancing around it. And instead of Meri constantly sort of sending jabs at Christine because of probably what she fears Christine is going to say, instead just acknowledging what she did. Humility can go a long way. Repairing relationships can go a long way. Admitting you did something, acknowledging you did something, and not calling it strict parenting. Everyone had a choice in the system to act the way that they did. Everyone had had choices to treat the children how they treated them. Every parent had an opportunity to do the right thing. Each one of these parents in some way has failed their children. All parents fail their children in some way. None of us are perfect. But the goal, I think, for most of us is that we're not going to repeat what happened to us or transfer it onto our childhood onto our children because they're innocent. So, if anything, I hope Meri can at some point just acknowledge what it is that she did and stop running around it and stop excusing it or making statements like, well, this is what happened to me. And it's not an excuse and it doesn't change what I did. Well, what is it that you've done? Tell us what you did. Stop hiding. Face it. Or is the truth too hard to face? I don't know. I care about, the children in this family having the opportunity to have a voice and share their side of the story. And if they feel like they want to publicly, they should. If not, they can keep it private. But I also think that if the parents are accused of things, they shouldn't dodge it and they should acknowledge it. And if anything, Meri should maybe get a PR agent to help. So what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, besties.